Good evening. Welcome, everyone. It is 6 p.m. and we will begin our CAC meeting. This is our 10th CAC meeting, so welcome, everyone. And thank you to all of our members for your support, for your engagement in this effort. We know this is voluntary and we appreciate your time tremendously. And thank you and welcome again to our 10th CAC meeting. I want to apologize on behalf of Bart Schwartz. He unfortunately had to be called away this evening and will not be able to join us via video, but we are joined by Deputy Monitor Dan Brownell, who will give all of the updates in his stead and serve as Bart Schwartz for the evening. Bart did say that if he could, he might call in later, and we'll be sure to ask Dan all the hard questions. So thank you all though for joining. Thank you for joining early to our members to make sure all mic and sound check has been done. If anyone else joins the room, that's fine. We do have a full agenda this evening and we will get right to it. I want to first turn it over to Dan to give the monitors updates, please.
Yeah, so we want to focus the issues tonight concerning NYCHA seniors on this CAC. Not only do seniors make up well over a third of NYCHA's total resident population, but as all of us know on this call, they play an important leadership role as many serves as TAPs and as members of other resident community groups. Clearly, both NYCHA as an authority and NYCHA's resident communities owe a great deal to its seniors who work tirelessly as crucial advocates for improving resident living conditions, as well as the overall well-being of residents at their developments. I know from my own experience, and I was talking with Asha earlier today, that it was just about 2 years that as part of this monitorship, I anyway visited my first development, which was Patterson Houses in the Bronx. And I remember meeting with the TAP there, one of several TAPs that I would have come to meet over the last 2 years. And the thing that always struck me, many of whom were seniors, is that they always have a very keen knowledge of the residents in their developments, particularly those that are most vulnerable and of need of extra attention, which is terrific. Strong resident leadership, as we all know, is so essential at NYCHA, and the seniors play an important role. But many of NYCHA's seniors are themselves in need of greater help and assistance. Many have health concerns that are challenged even more by the living conditions in their developments, particularly during the pandemic. This past week, I think it was last Wednesday, there was an important joint hearing by the City Council's Public Housing and Aging Committees. We have the chair of the Public Housing Committee, of course, on the CAC with us this evening, that testified regarding seniors and the pandemic. NYCHA's resident engagement and family partnership units, along with the city's Department of the Aging, were the main city agencies that testified at the hearing. In addition to issues regarding making the vaccine more available to residents and general health and safety concerns in and around the development buildings, much of the hearing was on seniors, NYCHA's senior and community centers. The pandemic has not only put seniors at risk in terms of their physical health, but it has also added increased challenges to mental well-being as well, in the form of much greater physical isolation. And of course, that's particularly true for seniors that live alone. One topic raised was the long-standing and unresolved, at this point, MOU discussions between NYCHA and DFTA regarding the centers. These negotiations apparently have literally lasted for years with little progress. And apparently during the pandemic, the negotiations stopped altogether and hopefully are soon to resume. As residents well know, the fallout from lack of clarity between NYCHA and DFTA and other city agencies that NYCHA contracts with regard to using these center spaces have created problems and gaps in terms of who actually is responsible for maintenance and repairs at the centers. This has resulted in the current condition where now some of the centers are almost unusable, or at least are in part because of water leaks, mold growth, lack of heat, and general disrepair that plagues many. DFTA reported during the hearing that they have recently been allocated increased funding from the city that should enable them to take on more of the role of fixing many of the conditions. Given how critical its community and senior centers are to residents, we ask NYCHA and the city to do what they can to make sure that these spaces are back to full use with safe and sanitary conditions. Regarding the monitor's role in seniors, one area most recently that we've been involved with has, for the last few months, has been with heat and elevators on how to make them more reliable, make those services more reliable by improving, working with NYCHA to improve their respective preventive maintenance programs for the equipment used to provide the services. While elevator outages that cause no service conditions are an inconvenience for all residents and staff, they're particularly debilitating for those affected seniors. Almost half of NYCHA's building have only one elevator. While the monitor is working with NYCHA under various government-funded capital projects to replace the aging elevators, that process will take years to complete. Comprehensive preventive maintenance on existing equipment is essential until replacements are made. The NYCHA's elevator department, along with the monitor, started a pilot program back in January at a development in the Bronx that had, at least at that point, the worst performing elevators in all of NYCHA. The elevator division, of course, is actually doing the actual preventive maintenance and testing out some new strategies, while the monitor team is acting to analyze the data and analyze what's working and not working with regard to the new strategies that are employed. I'm happy to let people know that after a couple months, there is progress being made and that outages at that particular development are going down. That pilot is going to last at least till June, the hope being that lessons learned there by the work that the elevator department, NYCHA's elevator department has employed can be then taken to other developments to improve services there. The other thing that I want to add is I think it was about a month ago, maybe a little longer, that the monitor team had the first town hall with regard to action plans that NYCHA, with assistance from the monitor, HUD and Southern, have done. That town hall was on, as I said, elevators. A week from tonight, on April 20th, there'll be the second in that series of town halls having to do with the pest and waste management action plan that was approved at the end of January. So hopefully as many people as possible can be on that particular town hall and ask your questions with regard to pest and waste management services at NYCHA and the action plan. The other thing that I want to talk about that was outlined in the recent quarterly report was kind of where we are in the organizational plan. I'll mention that Eva Trimble, who's really heading this whole process, quite remarkably, I might add, for one person, she's not doing it by herself, but certainly doing yeoman's work, is shepherding this process on behalf of NYCHA. As Bartek has explained in the past, and again, it's in his quarterly report that came out in the middle of March, the organizational plan required under the HUD agreement is different and distinct from Chair Russ's blueprint for change. Both are very important. The blueprint proposes to create a housing preservation trust to generate funding for NYCHA's properties. And as Bart explained, the best way to think about that, or think about the difference, is that while the blueprint's focus is on extensive capital project construction in the future and how that funding will hopefully be made available for those efforts, the HUD agreement requires NYCHA to meet current obligations to improve conditions for residents now. Both these goals must be harmonized to ensure that NYCHA doesn't sacrifice the present for the future. The first part of the organizational plan, the transformation plan, was completed by NYCHA at the end of January. And this is NYCHA's unconstrained vision for proposals to improve the functioning of its organization. This plan assumes that NYCHA is fully funded to enact these ideas, while creating the transformation plan is important to the process. These proposals are only useful if NYCHA can actually turn these ideas into the reality of how it will actually operate. I should also say that when we did the drafting of the action plans in that process, this was a very similar process that we used, getting NYCHA first to really see what it will take in an unconstrained fashion to meet its obligations, and then go back using the constraints of budget and other things to figure out the different pieces to the plan and how it's actually going to get done. So since the end of January, NYCHA, HUD, Southern District residents, consultants, along with the monitor team, have been now working to develop the implementation of plan, again, which Eva and her team are leading and structuring. For the next few months, we will identify strategies from the transformation plan to be implemented, taking into account budget, staff, and capacity needs. Difficult decisions will be made to prioritize crucial strategies for NYCHA's future success. The implementation plan will explain why NYCHA decided to prioritize certain strategies, along with the cost and timelines required for project completions. Crucial components of the implementation plan are now being discussed in various working groups that NYCHA has set up that have been meeting since February and will continue to meet through the spring and summer. The goal being to get the first draft of the implementation plan done during the early fall. Key areas of concentration are centered around moving more resources to the developments under what's called the neighborhood model, expanding staff trainings, and improving NYCHA's responses to work orders. The monitor team, along with HUD and Southern, participate in these working groups. As I said, like the action plans, the aim is to ensure that the organizational plan is not just a set of goals, but a true plan for how NYCHA will move forward to deliver core services to residents and comply with the HUD agreement. So that's what Bart wanted to make sure that I said. So we'll go from there. Thanks, Sasha.
Dan, thank you so much for that thorough update. You hit upon a few really important issues. One, our theme for the evening is focusing on senior citizens. As Dan mentioned, senior citizens make up a significant portion of the NYCHA community and also have unique sets of issues that need to be addressed. And as we go around and talk to residents, we try to highlight the issues that we hear the most and are of greatest concern in these CAC meetings. And so the theme for this evening will be on senior citizen issues and concerns, as well as member updates spanning across the topics that we've been focused on in our preceding 9 meetings. So with that theme, we shall proceed. Another issue, though, that we hear so much about is safety and security. And so we've started asking our NYPD and FDNY reps to give us updates as well. I am going to take the agenda a bit out of order because I know that our FDNY representative, Chief Brennan, is out in the field this evening and wearing multiple hats. So in case he has to drop off the line, I did want him to share an important update. And then for the rest of the agenda, and then after that, I'll go through the rest of the agenda. Chief Brennan, you can star 6, please. Okay, we're star 6. If you're trying to go off mute to present, you might be otherwise engaged. We know you are multitasking this evening. So, so we will go back to Chief Brennan and then I'll ask Howard Gottesman to present, please.
Hi, good evening. Um, just a quick update from the NYPD. Like Asha said, we are wearing multiple hats. There are activities going on in the city tonight. As of Sunday, we see that the NYPD crime statistics in public housing has crime slightly up for the year, about 2%. The categories of murder and specifically shootings are a bit troubling. We have seen a substantial increase in homicides for 2021 as compared to last year, 28 versus 13. It's more than double. Our shootings are 60 versus 41 for a 46% increase, which is less of a rise than last year, where we saw a doubling of our shooting incidents. However, still definitely not where we would like to be. In 2020, we saw an increase in our shootings happen around the week of May 10th. So we're not quite even there yet. And we do have a rise in shootings. So that's definitely not a place where we want to be. At our last meeting, I mentioned that it's very predictable to see what percentage of crime NYCHA will experience as compared to the rest of the city. I even made a prediction, which is eerily coming true, which states that when it comes to shootings, and we've seen this for the past 19 years, NYCHA represents 5%, approximately 5% of the New York City population. However, it makes up about 20% of our shootings. So with our week ending on Sunday, April 11th, we're right there. Our shootings for the year to date is 60 out of the city's approximate 300 shootings. That's exactly 20%, right on the dot. And this is something we see year after year. We see a disproportionate number of shooting incidents happening in public housing per capita than the rest of the city. The city experiences more shootings overall than public housing. However, when you divide that by the number of residents or the number of people that live in public housing versus the rest of the city, it's very disproportionate, approximately 4 times the number. And that's something we discussed at prior meetings. Most of it is attributed to gang and crew violence, which we desperately are trying to make inroads into. We need everybody's help. We need intelligence. We need information. We know that the vast majority of the violence is committed by a very, very small population in public housing, well under 5%, maybe even under 3%. And we know who the folks are for the most part. We have information on the crews and gangs that operate, but we definitely need assistance from the public. And we always ask people to call our tip hotline with any information whatsoever. It may not seem to you to be important perhaps at the time, but it may be the link or the key to help solve a homicide or a shooting, or help in one of our takedown cases to displace and put an end to the crew that's operating in that development. I'd be happy to take any questions. Well, I'm going to try to stay on the line as long as I can. And if anyone wants to type a question or a comment, I'll be happy to answer it. I've done that in the past as well.
Thank you so much for that update. Like you said, 97% of citizens in NYCHA are law-abiding citizens, and it's unfortunate that we have to live plagued with violence concerns and safety concerns, and a lot of residents have those top of mind. So thank you for highlighting this important issue and for highlighting the tip hotline. That's important for everyone to keep in mind as well. Okay, I wanted to see if we can get Kevin Brennan on the line. *6 if you're able to join. And then in the interim, I wanted to talk again about the format for tonight's program. We have been doing a lot of different outreach efforts in the community. This particular meeting, the CAC meeting, is a members only meeting in the Zoom room, but we have opened it up to everyone live via YouTube. although we can't hear or see you, we welcome you to join us this evening. Thank you for being part of the YouTube channel and for your engagement. Please keep in mind that we will have other events where we will have more open Zoom meetings that are open to everyone, both community members, elected officials, residents. The next meeting will be on April 20th, where we're going to focus on pest and waste issues. And we will also be having a community meeting where we'll be going to every single borough in the next coming months as well. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to engage directly. And of course, you don't have to wait for a meeting. You can always email or call the monitor's line, and we'll make all of that information available throughout the course of the meeting. So I wanted to see again, I think we're having trouble getting Chief Brennan on the line from FDNY. He did have an important update, but we'll circle back to that later in the evening. While we're focused though on FDNY, Fabricio Caro, did you have any updates for us?
Yeah, thank you. I think Chief Brennan is having some difficulty joining right now. He is playing dual role right now, working in the field. So apologies if he can't get through. In terms of community affairs, again, as I mentioned on every call, ultimately we are working collectively through CAC partners, specifically with DYCD and also with DFTA, Department for the Aging, on really expanding fire safety education as a result of the pandemic. Our traditional approach of working in person at various centers, either with tenant associations, live at meetings in person, or at Cornerstone Beacon programs, working with youth and families, or senior centers working with Department for the Aging, halted as a result of the pandemic, and we transitioned to a digital and electronic approach. Ultimately, that has been successful, but now as we are easing restrictions and going into this next phase of reopenings, let's say, we are re-envisioning what's going to be occurring now that we're hitting the off season of fire season technically, and looking at what we can do throughout the summertime. Working specifically with older adult populations, we are working with Department for the Aging to address or identify several means of providing both a hybrid approach of, depending on what the outcome is of any activity that will be happening at centers, but monitoring that and seeing in which way we can infuse in-person education when it comes to fire safety prevention. With NYCHA tenant leaders working through the Resident Engagement Division, we have begun coordinating citywide TA presentations on a digital approach, as well as now working with DYCD of thinking of a back to school campaign as students and youth and families go into the August-September timeframe, working with various city agency partners on a back to school safely campaign, really promoting fire safety, public safety, working with NYPD, and talking about education and community resources, working with DYCD and the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. So again, a lot on the horizon for fire safety. And one thing to really note, being that the topic is dealing with older adult populations this evening, again, looking at the series of fatal incidents or serious incidents that have occurred throughout the first 3 months of 2021, strong indication that still a vulnerable population is older adults. And the FDNY is taking that to a whole new degree. Within the next couple of months, we will be releasing PSAs, digital content to really work with caregivers, with senior programs, of really pushing that message and seeing how we can strengthen that community approach.
Thank you so much for your work, and thank you for that update. Okay, next I am going to go through what our agenda is going to be for the evening. There might be points if we have to go out of order a bit, let me know. And if anyone has to leave the line for any reason and needs to switch the order, please also let me know. But now that we've received the monitor updates, we've had the NYPD and NYFD updates, we're going to hear a presentation from Agnes Mack at DFTA. And we're going to hear remarks by City Council member Alika Ampry Samuel. And then we will hear remarks by our Citywide Council of Presidents member, Lilith Lozano. I also invite Citywide Council of Presidents President Danny Barber to join the line and to make any remarks at that time with Ms. Lozano. And then we will hear an update by NYCHA, Office of the Chair, Eva Trimble. I'm pleased that we'll be making a new member introduction, Mr. Manuel Martinez in Queens. He goes by Manny, and we're so excited that he's joining the CAC. And we will then hear CAC member updates. A lot of work has been going on, a lot of thought in a number of different areas, as well as concerns with regards to our senior population that we will highlight during the update and discussion session. And then we'll have closing remarks by Dan Brownell. So that will be our agenda for the evening. Again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for watching on the live YouTube line, and let's proceed. So I know Ms. Mack has some slides for us that we will share on our end and learn more about some of the work that DFDA is doing right now.
Hi, good evening. My name is Agnes Mack. I'm the Senior Director from the Department for the Aging, overseeing the nutrition program. Tonight, I am presenting to you a brand new and fun program that we have launched in the month of March. It is DFDA's first ever produce bag farm share distribution program. Next slide, please. This program is funded, is made possible by a grant that DFDA received from the New York State Office for the Aging. The name of the grant is called SHINE Grant. This program include a produce bag distribution that goes out to the seniors who participate in the program. And along with the produce bag, we also are able to distribute a pantry bag to them as free of charge to the seniors. So on a monthly basis, the senior will get 1 to 2 produce bags, depending on how often they want to receive it, and 1 to 2 pantry bags, again, depending on how often they want to receive it. Because of COVID, currently the food is being delivered to the seniors' home. And we are implementing this food box distribution program at 2 of our NYCHA located senior centers, one at Rain Boston Road Senior Center, and the other one at Neighborhood Shop Thomas Guest Senior Center. Initially, when we were planning for this program, we had planned for about maybe 20 to 30 seniors to participate, but we have received an overwhelming response from our seniors. And for the month of March, we have 104 seniors participating from both sides. So we are very excited about it. This is a year-long program which goes on. We started it in March, but it will go on year-long. Next slide, please. So this program will include a produce bag that is distributed to the seniors once or twice a month, depending on how often they want to receive it. The produce bag will include locally grown seasonal produce for 1 to 2 people and 2 pantry bags per month, which include shelf-stable items. In addition to food, the seniors will also receive every month nutritional educational handouts and recipe cards, because remember, they will be getting seasonal produce and some of the food may be unfamiliar to the seniors. So we want to teach them how to cook with these produce. So we also include recipe cards and educational materials so that they will understand the nutritional value of these items. In addition to also encourage participation, we also give giveaways to the seniors for participating. The giveaways include vegetable peelers, placemats, salad bowls, and water bottle. In addition to getting food and these free giveaways, we also have nutritionists who will hold live cooking club monthly and discussion groups. Next slide, please. Now, here is a picture of what a produce bag looked like for the month of March. As you can see, this is a lot of food. So for this time of the year, we have a lot of root vegetables, carrots, sugar beets, onion, winter squash, potatoes, and fresh fruit. And also in the background, I see some salad greens as well. And included in the bag, you could also see in the background some educational material called Healthy Food for Your Table. And then there's a recipe card that tells you what to do with a butternut squash, the health benefit of a butternut squash, and how to cook with it. Now, a produce bag that looks like this will cost $5 for the senior. It should last for 1 to 2 persons for about a week to 2 weeks. And in addition to this produce bag, they also get a pantry bag for free for the alternate week. Next slide, please. So this is what a pantry bag looks like. It includes shelf-stable items such as cereal, juice, rice, milk, beans, fresh fruits, potatoes. This is what one bag will look like. Next slide, please. Now, one will say that $5, $10 a month for 2 produce bags and 2 pantry bags is still a little bit expensive for seniors. One of our providers, Neighborhood Shop, was able to apply for funding from the Robin Hood Foundation to fund the cost for the seniors. So the seniors who are participating from Thomas Guest Senior Center are getting all of this food for free. Now, this slide shows you a variety of nutrition educational material that the seniors will be getting. The topics include eating healthy on a budget, food safety, fruits and vegetables, how do you control portions. In addition to getting something to read, which is a little bit boring, we also have nutritionists who will do cooking classes, nutritional workshops on a monthly basis. These workshops are available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Next slide, please. Now, this is a picture of the giveaways. To encourage seniors to sign up, we give them a placemat, which has nutritional information on it. The placemat, I don't know if you could see, it says My Plate, which tells you about portion size. It has an educational flyer, a water bottle, a vegetable peeler, a recipe card, a collapsible plastic bowl, which people can use as a salad bowl or a container that you can store food on, and a reusable grocery bag, which these days, when you go to the supermarket, you don't get a plastic bag anymore. So these reusable bags comes in very handy. Next slide, please. So the benefit of this program is to increase access to fresh fruits and vegetables. It is low cost, it is seasonal, it contains locally fresh produce that are delivered to the home of the seniors. They don't have to go out to buy groceries, they can have these things delivered to their home. It provides stability and decrease food insecurity, because as we know, during COVID, sometimes food gets expensive, it's hard to get certain foods, and seniors may have to travel long distance to get fresh food. So these things get delivered to their home. And the educational program will help seniors increase their awareness on health and on nutrition. Next slide, please. Now, this is a slide that shows our Shine Grant consultants in action and the senior center staff in action. The middle picture shows you the crates, the black crates and the green crates that shows you that when the food comes in the senior center, this is what it looks like. The picture on the right-hand side shows you that the senior center staff are helping to put the produce into bags. And on the left-hand side, it shows you that they put the bags onto a cart. And the picture in the middle with the 3 ladies, this is the team delivering food to the seniors' home. Next slide, please. So we are very happy that there was such an enthusiasm to join the program. We are hoping to, in the future, to expand the program to more sites and also to include more seniors in the program. And we are also hoping that when the restrictions of COVID are lifted, the seniors will have the option of picking up the items in person and joining our educational program in person. So I am happy to take any questions if anybody have any questions. Thank you. If there are no questions, I'll hand it back to Asha.
Thank you so much, Agnes, for that great presentation and this really great program. It seems so important to get some fresh fruit and produce into the hands of as many people as possible. So I hope to see this program continue to grow and expand. And it's great that 100 people will be benefiting from it right now. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And thank you for the important work that DFTA does in this area and so many others. Next, I wanted to turn, please, to Council Member Alika Ampry-Samuel. Dan touched on a hearing that City Council recently had, and I was hoping you could tell us more about that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. So last week, Wednesday, on April 7th, the Public Housing Committee held a joint hearing with the Committee on Aging, and it was focused on, this was the title, Seniors Aging in Place in NYCHA During the Pandemic. And like Dan said, we heard from NYCHA's Executive Vice President, Sadia Sherman, and the Senior Director of NYCHA's Family Partnerships Department, Yuka Buskett, and we also heard from representatives from DFTA. Of the total 302 developments in NYCHA, 40 of them are senior-only developments with a total of 58 buildings. So the purpose of the hearing was to get an understanding of what NYCHA and DFTA are doing to ensure the health and safety of our senior population, in particular, addressing COVID-related concerns like access to food, PPE, sanitizing the buildings, access to the internet, and discussing the opening of the 74 senior centers in the NYCHA developments and the 14 social clubs that also operate in NYCHA buildings. So as we participate, like as a society, right, planning of New York City coming out of the pandemic, the purpose of the hearing was to make sure that seniors are not left behind or ignored. Early into the COVID-19 pandemic, data indicated that the virus had been taking a disproportionate toll among public housing residents. The rate of death due to COVID for residents of NYCHA developments was reported at more than twice the citywide average. And with neighborhoods that contain public housing developments, they were experiencing a 30% higher rate of COVID-19 hospitalizations when compared to the surrounding areas. So some residents attributed this disparity to an inadequate response by NYCHA and government agencies. So clearly there was a need to have this hearing as we are, again, planning on what are the next steps as we come out of the pandemic. Another focal point was the continued maintenance and repairs of senior apartments and the prioritization of those developments, buildings, and units. In October of 2020, there was a news article in the city that reported seniors in NYCHA buildings that had poor ventilation were the ones that were being slammed by COVID-19. And so there was a direct correlation clearly between poor ventilation, maintenance and repairs, and the seniors living in the NYCHA developments. And at the time, the infection rate in 22, it was reported 22 NYCHA senior developments were much higher than the rates for the entire rest of the city. So during the hearing, we asked those specific questions about work orders and what happens when seniors call in repairs and need repairs done to their apartments. And it was good to hear that when they do make those calls, that seniors and seniors living in senior-only buildings, those calls are flagged and they are prioritized. And so it was good for us to be able to hear that. So we do know that there is a priority when it comes to our seniors. And along those same lines, Dan did mention this, we did ask questions about the MOU between NYCHA and DFTA as it relates to the repairs of our senior centers. And so if we're talking about the opening of our senior centers, we want to make sure that they are able to finalize finally this MOU, and that they're working with OMB to figure out the how and the who and the how much, and really be able to delineate the roles and responsibilities as to who pays for what. And so although there is they're working on this process of the repairs for the senior centers and who's responsible, there was not a notice, there was no timeline as to exactly when the senior centers are going to be open for in-person programming. And that was a little bit of a disappointment, because we were hoping, and everyone's been hoping, that there would be a plan in place for the opening of the centers, especially with the weather, getting nicer. And we all know that the seniors are ready to come outside and be in a formal setting and get back into the centers. And so it was a little bit of a disappointment, because the representative stated that they are waiting for guidance and waiting for timelines from the state and the city. And we even said during the hearing that, we shouldn't be waiting. We should be a little more proactive when it comes to reopening. We should be presenting the administration with a plan. Like, this is what we need to get done in order for the centers to open. And we should be dictating that. And so that was a piece of it. But, again, everyone is eager to open up, and that's positive. So during the hearing, we discussed and learned the following. So I just, listed some things. NYCHA and DFTA will continue to work with the city and state to set up, coordinate, and help with scheduling of vaccinations of our senior residents, utilizing NYCHA centers. And they had 60 NYCHA sites that operated as vaccine sites already. As of April 1, they launched 7 of the 11 long-term NYCHA vaccination clinics that will serve communities with high concentrations of NYCHA housing. And these clinics will serve all eligible NYCHA residents, and they will stay open for at least 4 to 18 weeks. And so it was good to hear that there are plans in place to make sure that we are targeting the NYCHA residents as it relates to the vaccines. And they're still operating COVID testing sites, and they're still working with the mobile units on NYCHA properties. NYCHA staff continue to conduct wellness calls, and they're still working with New York Cares with those calls. And the city has provided free tablets for the seniors and internet service. They've distributed 10,300 tablets to NYCHA seniors, and they partner with OATS, Older Adults Technology Services. And with that partnership, we were told that nearly 3,000 seniors have participated in virtual trainings and workshops. And that is just key because of the digital divide, and know that there is always an issue with connectivity. And so those are some of the things that were pulled out of the hearing. And I just wanted to, just focus on a positive. And also we heard 2 pieces of legislation. One was intro number 415, that's sponsored by Councilmember Chen, which requires the New York City Housing Authority to report annually on senior centers within NYCHA buildings. And intro 1827, which is what I sponsored, and that's to establish a NYCHA liaison within the Department for the Aging, within DFTA. And again, that's all to prioritize our seniors. And so for the most part, that was the gist of the hearing. Dan, you did an amazing job with summarizing the hearing. But that's
you did an amazing. I actually listened to the hearing and you did an amazing job, you and Councilmember Chin. And I think for me, the highlight, which you said a moment ago, when you really challenged NYCHA and DFTA to work together to, not be passive, but to generate the opening plan. There's certainly plenty of guidance by both the state and the city. And presumably the Department of Health is going to do everything it can to open, things up like senior centers that are so crucial. So I thought that was a good highlight. I thought it was an excellent hearing.
Thanks. So that was the gist of it all. Hearing of the two pieces of legislation and really being able to have a conversation and figure out what are the solutions to make sure that our seniors are healthy and safe. And so I have hope that, that everyone is working, towards the same goal in the same direction.
Thank you for that, Council Member. I did have a question about the legislation you sponsored with the liaison with DFTA. Can you tell us more about what you're hoping that will do?
So pretty much, clearly, all agencies, they do a great job in providing a service, but sometimes we need to codify things. Sometimes there's just a need to have something in legislation that mandates that things are happening, that requires that there's an official, person that is there, that is their only focus, their primary focus is on the seniors. And so we wanted to make sure that there is an exclusive dedicated person in DFTA that is focused only on the seniors. NYCHA has, their department, they have social workers, they have caseworkers and everything else, but, they're working on the entire portfolio. And so this is a way to be able to exclusively focus on the senior population.
Thank you for that. That's so important. And I wanted to just see, does anyone have any questions for Council Member on that? Okay, we can
I have a
have
question.
it in the discussions portion of our.
Oh, I see Danny Barber.
Oh,
Yes.
go ahead.
Where, good evening, everyone. Where is NYCHA and DFTA at with finalizing an MOU or coming to some sense of consensus? Because for the resident leadership, it becomes an issue where a lot of the times is safety hazards and rooms have to be closed off and services cut off, and the residents don't get to participate or maybe use the computer room because of a leak that's constantly coming in, where the computers have to be taken apart to put to the side until someone fixed the leak, and it's going back and forth for months. That is a reoccurring issue citywide, and I've been asking for quite some time now about the MOU with DFTA as well as DYCD. Since it's 10 years out that there hasn't been an active MOU.
And that was a bit of a back and forth, I think, during the hearing, because I literally asked them, how long has it been? And I made just a little comment about the fact that we've built bridges. We've literally built bridges faster than they're able to finalize as an MOU. But Sadia did say that they're finally in a position where they have agreed on language, and they are, and even you could jump in, or someone from DFTA, but that they've also been able to designate funding, like working directly with OMB on the funding aspect, and that there's been funding that's been allocated for this purpose of having some of the repairs made, so that DFTA could be able to have some responsibility.
Okay, and my second part of my question, I wouldn't be Mr. Barber if I didn't ask it. Was there any resident participation in sitting down to create or to come up with language to go in the MOU, since it's gonna be that language and that MOU that governs the space that the residents are gonna utilize and have to be involved with?
I'm not able to answer that question. I know that there was the involvement of organizations, like advocacy organizations and the community-based organizations that are with, that have contracts with DFTA utilizing that space. They took input from them, as to what have they been going through. So I'm not sure about the actual residents, but there was input from organizations.
Okay, that'll
But
be
maybe somebody from maybe JT, maybe somebody from Settlement House. I'm not sure who's on the call, but maybe somebody else that can answer that.
It's all right. We can move on. That'll be a further conversation that I have with HUD and Nitro offline, because a lot of those agencies reach out to Mr. Barber to get a roof fix, to get a lock changed, to get a window replaced, to get a refrigerator repaired, to get a stove done over. So, I mean, if the residents are the key factor to getting a lot of the repairs and things done, it's time that the world wakes up and realize that the residents are a part of it. And I mean, but we'll have this conversation further offline. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilwoman.
Very good
Samuels?
questions and perfect timing, because
I had a question.
the moment in the agenda right now is precisely to have CCOP with the floor. So thank you, Mr. Barber, for that. And Ms. Lozano for jumping in. This is, the floor is yours for a couple of minutes to make any additional remarks on this topic, please.
Well, one of the things is that I appreciate and embrace that DFTA is doing all these outreach. One of my concerns, because I see it in other developments as well as my own, where we have seniors who are hoarders and there's no way of getting assistance for them mentally. I would like to make sure that anyone who's on this call with DFTA that we discuss the mental health, because we've lost a lot of precious lives unnecessarily because of negligence and because of no accountability. And as my colleague said, one of the things Ms. Sherman has emphasized that they have all these partnerships, but at the end of everything, it always runs back to us as residents and resident leaders to have to address the concerns. That's a very big problem. And the other thing, if Councilwoman Samuels can answer, if she has the answers to this question, is that, this AWS, is that ever going to be discussed in any future hearings on the U.S. chair of the Housing Committee? Because that it's a very big problem and we're not getting any type of assistance from the mayor regarding that. Have you had anything come to your attention in addressing that?
I want to say we had a hearing. It might have been the October hearing. I can't quite remember. Where we did talk about AWS, and we talked about the difficulties, not just with the unions, but being able to adequately staff the buildings and to be able to have enough workers for all shifts. And that there was a conversation around, like, what do you do next? Because it was a staffing issue. I mean, so we had a hearing about it, but, clearly that's something that's an ongoing topic. So maybe we can have a roundtable with NYCHA to discuss it as well, like just maintenance issues and staffing.
I really suggest it wholeheartedly, because we have to, honestly, we have to take a more active approach with the mayor. I know we're getting a new mayor in a couple of months and all that other good stuff, but we can't continue to have residents lose their lives because of negligence. We can have our people, with not clean buildings, and this has been it doesn't seem to get any type of resolution So I just want to make sure that, you know, those are one of the things that have been coming across to me, is that AWS and the mental health for all, but our senior population.
Very important issues, Ms. Lozano. Thank you so much.
Asha, can I respond to that now, or do you want me to wait for my turn?
Oh, you guys are always one step ahead of your turn because your turn is next.
Oh,
So,
perfect
and
timing.
then,
Thank you.
segue in.
Thank you, Ms. Lozano, for raising AWS. I know it's something you've raised to the chair and general manager many times before. I'm happy to give an update on the program. We actually just recently briefed Local 237, our union partners, on a plan to do a pilot for AWS for changing the program entirely. We're hoping to get that started in the next few weeks in Brooklyn at three different consolidations in Brooklyn. And the idea with this plan is that we will not just be changing the workers' schedule, but one thing most people didn't understand about AWS is that when it wasn't just a schedule change, it was a change to the way they actually performed their business. And so we are looking to bring caretakers back to a building-based assignment, which is really important, both for accountability, but also for building relationships with residents. So we are looking to change how they do their work and the hours that they do their work. And Local 237 was, I would say, pleased with the presentation. They're willing to be our partner on this. We still have a lot of details to work out, but we are preparing now to move forward with this pilot and brief work with our property managers. Residents have been involved and will now be more engaged now that we can actually meet with the developments. We will be asking for resident involvement from those developments that are part of the pilot, so that we have constant feedback and evaluation as to how it's working. And then we're expecting the pilot to last about 3 months. Then we'll finalize an evaluation and come up with a plan and a budget to scale that up across the organization. So, I think we're at a point where we have all admitted multiple times now that we know AWS isn't working, that we need a change. And through the transformation planning process and the implementation work that we're doing, we are getting ready to implement that change. We want it to be right, which is why we're doing this pilot first. So we're very excited about that and very happy to report on that tonight. In general, we've been moving forward on multiple projects from the transformation plan. As Dan mentioned in his opening remarks, the plan has many strategies and we don't have the resources to do everything at once. So we've picked a handful of priority projects that we're moving on now. We are building project teams for some of these strategies. And as part of that, we just recently received a list from Mr. Barber and the CCOP of residents that will participate alongside us in these project teams. In addition, on next week, Monday, I think that's Monday, April 19th, we hope to launch what's called the Resident Roundtable, where we will be seeking residents to apply to coordinate with NYCHA on the implementation planning process and actually sit at the table with us and help us design how these strategies should work. So we're really looking to work hand in hand with the residents through this process, both through direct participation on the work streams and this resident roundtable process that we will be launching the application for, as I said, probably in the next week. So really looking forward to what we're to all of these projects coming to fruition, and all of this work will be documented in a published implementation plan at the end of September, which will really be a phase 1 plan where we lay out all the work we've been doing on moving these projects forward, identifying the resources we need, and really laying out for everyone in a very transparent way how long it's going to take, because we know that these changes for NYCHA will not be quick and they won't be easy, but we think over 2 to 5 years we can lay everything out and show you how we're going to get there. And so that's the purpose of the implementation plan, We will publish one at the end of September and one in June of 2022 to continue to update all of our stakeholders on our progress. And always happy to have more feedback, or if anyone has questions or concerns about a specific initiative, you're happy to reach out to me directly, and I can follow up and work with you to better describe it or answer any questions you have. So thank you so much, Asha.
Thank you, Eva, for that update. I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some changes to the AWS system. That's so important. And it really also dovetails with the meeting that we're going to have next week on April 20th to really talk about the waste and pest issues. Obviously, when things aren't well cleaned, they invite unwanted friends and visitors. So it really feeds into each other, and it's plaguing up so many of the developments. And then, of course, we're so glad to hear that there's going to be increased resident involvement on the planning and strategies going forward, because obviously it affects the residents, and voices are imperative to have at the table that can really shed light on what will really work in real life, what really will work and what doesn't work, having lived those experiences and not being theoretical. So that's really important. And I know that's something that's very important to Bart as well. So I wanted to thank everyone for giving the presentations and remarks so far. Thank you so much, Ms. Mack, for the presentation on DFTA and the important work with the food program. We were supposed to have updates from JT Falcone with UNH. Unfortunately, he had an emergency and apologizes that he can't be with us, but he will give an update at next meeting. Thank you so much, Council Member Lika Samuel, for the important work you're doing as the chair of the public housing with the City Council, and the important hearing you had with the Department of the Aging. And thank you so much to our city-wide Council of Presidents representatives, Danny Barber, the president, and Lilith Lozano, the treasurer, both for being here on the CAC and for making remarks and for your continued leadership and advocacy. And thank you to NYPD for that important safety update, and NYFD for the important work you're doing educating the community about fire safety. And thank you again, Eva, for the announcements and updates from NYCHA. Really excited to hear that the applications will go out to get more residents involved. And now I'm talking about resident involvement. We're really excited to announce, as I mentioned, that we have a new member, Manny Martinez, who is representing Queens. And we would like to take this opportunity to first spotlight Ms. Tamika Williams-Moore, who's been fantastic on the CAC for the past 2 years. We really appreciate you as a thought leader and your unstoppable willingness to bring up important issues and to raise them and to focus on so many issues that you've been really valuable to us for. So we hope that you will continue to join us in an advisory capacity as your schedule permits, because you've been an invaluable member of the CAC, and we appreciate you being part of our inaugural group. So we hope to keep putting you to work. So even though you've graduated, if you will, you don't get to leave us. Thank you so much, Tamika. And I wanted to ask if you had any words.
Thank you, Asha. I appreciate the kind words. And yes, I will stick around. So I just wanted to touch on the sidewalk shed issue that we've been speaking about so adamantly over the span of the monitorship. So we all know that sidewalk sheds aesthetically are unpleasing to the eye of the development. It hinders visibility for pedestrians and cameras. But the issue here is to get the sidewalk shed dismantled after the contract work has been completed. And the question is, what can we do? Well, guess what? We can all do something. Okay. We can, as residents, stop throwing our garbage out of the windows, because a lot of garbage come out of the windows. We can stop opening up the window and discarding our air conditioners when we don't want them, as a means of getting rid of them. What can NYCHA do? NYCHA can purchase air conditioner brackets for the families that live in the developments. That would cut costs for sidewalk sheds, and it would make the development a safer place to walk around, not only for the residents, pedestrians, but also for the workers and the construction workers that are on site. I believe that that can be achieved. NYCHA may find that some of the violations that are on the sidewalk shed after the work has been completed could be due to unsafe conditions as it relates to unsecured air conditioners. And so as far as budget goes, there's some of our budget cut right there, funds that we can use somewhere else. They could be allocated, to a better cause. So that was one thing that I wanted to touch on. The other thing was when we as resident associations and communities come together and we sit with our political affiliates and we ask them for funds to be allocated for capital projects. And these funds are allocated and they sit in SAM accounts. Well, we don't need those funds 7 years down the line after they've been sitting in a fund somewhere. The reason why we're advocating for those things is because we need them now. We need them now. We need the lights now. We shouldn't have to sit in the dark for 7 years to come, 8 years to come until these contracts are up and running. There should be some type of a process or structure implemented and put together where the resident associations and the communities are abreast of the processes and what it takes to bring these projects off the ground and to be a part of the RFP process and to get the estimates and to do the GPRing of the grounds. And we all want to be involved, and that's why we're going to our political affiliates and we're asking them to be involved. And so what we're asking for is that some system be set in place where we can actually track this and help these small projects get off the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for your membership and for your leadership and for your continued advocacy on these important issues. Hopefully we can have another dedicated meeting where we really talk about the scaffolding sidewalk shed issue, because like you said, it is extremely expensive for one. It's a big budget item for NYCHA and it's unnecessary, it seems, in certain instances. So really getting to the bottom of when they're up, how long they're up, why they're up, who cleans them when they're up, and making sure they get taken care of so that everything is safe is a critical issue. So thank you for that. And next, where did he go? I'm looking for Mr. Martinez. Okay, we will circle back to Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I know he was trying to get back on. I could see. I don't know if he was successful.
Yeah, I think he's having technical difficulties. He's disconnected twice. I'll try to get him back on, Asha.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Okay, so I wanted to now open up the floor to our member updates. There's a lot of issues that we are concerned about, passionate about, hearing from our varying constituents as the TAP leaders that I really wanted to focus on. And so I wanted to turn the floor to Mr. Gross from Brooklyn to give any updates and express any concerns that you're hearing, particularly as it relates to senior issues and other concerns. Mr. Gross, unmute, please.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, the entire team for the Federal Monitor. A lot of milestones we accomplished, included NYCHA for working closely with the Federal Monitor, Eva. About the senior citizen, I would like to address about the safety, about the services for the senior citizen. NYCHA has a lot of services for the senior citizen and a disabled citizen, but a lot of residents from NYCHA, especially the senior citizen, doesn't know about the program. I would suggest every senior citizen should get, like in the invoice letter, the monthly bill, once or twice a year, exactly the services, grab bars, if they have problems with hearing, the intercom system, social service, and senior centers. NYCHA should send out like a nice flyer with all types of services, what they have already, and just send it to the senior citizen. They should know in a contact information, maybe they can call the local management office for help. They should know the services where they can ask, and also ADA apartments if they have to transfer to a senior citizen center. Is a lot of information what a lot of tenants doesn't know. That's number one. Number two is an issue what multiple residents are talking about it. When a senior citizen lives in a one-bedroom apartment, he wants a family member, a daughter, a son should join them, or a grandchild should join them, and they put an application for NYCHA. NYCHA will deny it because it's overcrowded. And a lot of residents always argument that a NYCHA is violating the ADA rules. And also a lot of times the kids will not join and help the senior citizen. What we feel, as we all gonna get old, we need to have the help from our kids and grandkids. And a lot of times if a family member joins, move in together with the grandfather or the father after 20 years of living there, and the family member passed away, NYCHA will evict that family member. A lot of times the family member is saying, look, I joined my father's or my grandfather's house. I lived with them for over 20 years, 10 years to help him out. Right now, when he's alone, a senior citizen, he will be thrown out on the street. And I think, and I feel on behalf of all the tenants, NYCHA should make some real changes to the policy. And I know Letitia James, when she was public advocate, I think she was talking, I think she went even in court about that specific issue. I would like to move on to and also when a senior citizen right now, especially in the pandemic, in the COVID-19 times, a lot of senior citizens doesn't have computers to have the recertification done. If we can have NYCHA, especially for the senior population, to call them and do the recertification just on a phone call, because a senior citizen usually will have a pension or social security, the specific incomes, what NYCHA themselves can review it. Instead of a lot of times right now, what we hear, senior citizen was unable to do the recertification, to go down to management. They're afraid to go in public. They try to stay home. And right now, they're afraid they're going to be threatened they're going to evict him, or NYCHA will take some legal action. I'm suggesting if they can contact the senior citizen, just do the recertification over the phone. Right now, I want to go back to security in public housing, what we was having a huge topic on it. I suggest, and I thinking is fair, the security and safety for all the residents should be a top priority. And what we hear always, broken locks and broken lobby doors is always open. That will take for NYCHA a lot of times weeks or months to fix it. I think all the developers should have backup locks and doors. If case anything gets vandalized or broken out of order, it should be a time frame like 24 hours. They should immediately be able to fix it. Even emergency service unit should have locks and doors and ready to fix any open or broken doors. That will avoid a lot of people from the outside will come and use the NYCHA buildings for illegal activity or for a bathroom or hangouts. Another topic about security, every TA president with the manager should have a monthly or twice a month meetings with the NCO, with the police department. The PSA 1, 2, 3 is important. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows exactly what the safety issues is in development. Everybody should share it across the board with management and with the police department. I would like to go right now to the PACT program. It's very important. NYCHA, like we was having in our development, all the documents from every PACT and RED transition should be in multiple languages. Every single tenant, resident from that particular development should be able to read and understand fully the program. That's going to benefit every single resident, and nobody will have, nobody should say we was unable to understand or read about the program. And one of the top priorities should be in any PACT and RED development who's going through the program, they should put a high priority, not just to go in and develop and make it fancy, nice. They should go to the lead and mold, to the, let's say mold. It's two ways how to react to a mold issue. Till now, if we have mold in the bathroom, NYCHA came in with a spray, bleach or some chemicals, wash it off. 4 or 5 days, the mold is back. So when a PAC, the red development is involved and a new management is taking care over the day-to-day operation, they should go to the cure. Why we have mold? Because the exhaust is not working. We have leaks. This should be the first priority to address it before we have new elevators or painting the apartments, before they're making new playgrounds. The safety from mold and lead should be the first priority on every single contract throughout red and PACT transition. And I would like to thank everybody for the hard work, what they're always doing for the residents.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. We really appreciate you and raising those important points. Next, I wanted to turn back to Mr. Martinez. Is he still able to be on the line? I know his line has been unstable. We'll keep trying.
He's actually attaching now. Just give him one.
Okay, good. I see you.
Seconds.
Hi, Mr. Martinez. Wanted to turn the floor to you to formally thank and welcome you for joining the CAC as a Queens representative, and to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about you and why you were interested in joining the CAC. And then I know there were a couple of important issues that you wanted to address on the CAC. If you could mention all of those things now, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I want to thank you. I'm truly grateful for being here this evening. Thank you, Ms. Modro, for your introduction. And I am truly humbled by the invitation. My name is Manny Martinez. I'm the resident council president for South Jamaica Houses. I have been representing the families here and throughout many areas of Queens, assisting other resident council officers with their areas throughout different areas of Queens in order to increase the quality of life here. Section 3 has been one of my primary concerns, as well as the shorthanded staff and as well as the manner in which the relationship between resident council officers and NYCHA is being upheld. There are some issues with regards to that should be addressed. One of the issues, as I said, Section 3. So with regards to the federal monitor and his role in oversight, and I know that there is a 3 compliance departments, 1 regulatory compliance department that has mandated to be placed into NYCHA. I am concerned with the manner in which Section 3 is being engaged, especially with the unions. That the number one excuse for a lot of employment opportunities and training opportunities to be subsidized is that contractors will say that the persons would need to be in the union. And actually that is not the case. The project labor agreement, which is also cited a lot, states specifically that Section 3, that the unions are subjugated to Section 3, and that the unions have a 48-hour window in order to provide a qualified person in, with regards to being Section 3, as well as being skilled at the trade to do the job, in order to provide a person to be into that position. Now, this is very important, especially now when we're talking about seniors, because we're talking about the safety. I think the police officer initially stated that 20% of the shootings in New York City comes from 5% of the population being the New York City Housing Authority, and of that 5% population, 3% of the population in which specifically it comes from. And we all know that there's a general consensus that jobs reduce crime. And so now this huge obstruction to access to this large scale employment that we have here in NYCHA, that NYCHA represents, with the massive contracting that's going on. We're talking about almost $3 billion a year in contracts being issued. That massive obstruction is having this impact on our communities with regards to crime and this huge restriction to opportunities. Now, the federal monitor's responsibility in regards to the contract with consultation with these departments who have to provide oversight, that is very key. And I think that needs to have a specific focus. Something else that we want to discuss is the shorthanded staff, like this AWS. We are concerned that also, again, with the responsibilities that NYCHA has with maintaining pest reduction and trash cleanup, that the amount of the labor force itself is not adequate in order to maintain accordance with its responsibilities of the 2019 agreement, as well as regulatory compliances. This is an issue that a strategy outside of reaching adequate levels of employment, nothing else would affect it. Nothing else would result in an actual positive change. We need more bodies that is going to be in uniforms. Currently now in South Jamaica houses, at the end of the week, we have 5 people. 5 people for 27 buildings and a huge thousandage of acreage to be covered. In no kind of way is that sufficient to maintain their accordance to what is responsible to them in the 2019 agreement. Also, in tune with our seniors, the trespassers. We have a high population of trespassers in our buildings. I know that many of them may be homeless, many of them may be narcotic, have struggles with certain other issues. But what I will say is that NYCHA public housing is not public property. This is not Central Park, and this is not the train station. We have the responsibility of upholding a residential environment. We have families who are raising their children. We have seniors here. We have working families here who feel endangered when they have to leave at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work or come home from, because they have to walk over or walk through this population, especially with COVID, and knowing that this population may have a high tendency of contagion, of spreading this particular disease, considering that 80% of the senior population in NYCHA lives in mixed age developments. They don't live in senior developments. Senior developments account for 20% of the senior population, with 80% of the population living in these developments that have working families and of all ages. We need to have a strict focus on trespasses. And the other thing that I'm concerned with is I am truthfully grateful for the services that are coming in, that may be coming, that are being proposed to come in with issuing services to the homeless. But NYCHA is not a point of contact for service exchange. We are not the HRA. This is our homes. This is where we raise our children. This is residential. And the minute that we begin to normalize this type of circumstance is the minute that becomes a huge disservice to our communities as human beings and as parents and as working people and as citizens of this city, right? Let's not forget that we are citizens of this city and we merit those services to be accorded and afforded to us. And so with that said, I want to thank you for inviting me. I'm truly humbled by the invitation, and I am very honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martinez, for raising those really important issues. We look forward to working with you this year to dig more deeply into those issues. They're all extremely important. The last issue you hit with regard to safety for our aging adult population and senior citizens is extremely crucial, and it hit me, really personally, as many on this call have heard me say. My grandmother lived in NYCHA housing until her dying day. She moved in from when they built the building she lived in the Lincoln to the day that she died. And you know, as the grandkid, I spent many nights there. And my great grandmothers both lived in NYCHA as well. One of my great grandmothers lived in Polo Grounds and the other one lived in Frederick Douglass. And when my great grandmother was well into her 90s, someone who was, you know, addicted to narcotics forced their way into her home and sexually assaulted and robbed her in her 90s. And it just shouldn't never happen to our grandmothers, our great grandmothers. No one should have to be in fear of their life and their livelihood because they're NYCHA residents, and particularly our most vulnerable population, our seniors. So it's a very important issue from every aspect, for the mental health issue that was highlighted, the food security issue, the safety issue, the additional resources that were highlighted, and being able to get, you know, families there to help, et cetera. There's every single angle we can think about supporting our aging adult population that is such a significant population of NYCHA is critical. So I'm glad we're all touching on this really important issue tonight. I wanted to now turn the floor to Ms. Gina Watkins at NYCHA. I know that there is quite a bit of outreach work being done, and I was hoping you can update us in that regard. Ms. Watkins, if you could unmute yourself.
Good evening. Yes, I've been having some little issues with the computer as well. So that's why I've been kind of off and on the camera. How are you guys doing? It's good to see you guys. Yes, there has been a lot of outreach for our seniors. We have made over 137,000 wellness calls throughout the pandemic to our seniors, connecting them with services to food and mental health and health insurance, things to that nature. We provided over 10,000, Malika stated also 10,300 tablets and working with oats for our seniors, as well as over 16,000 air conditioners to our seniors also. We've enrolled our seniors in the Get Food program, and we're still currently at this time managing over 4,700 accounts for seniors, reordering food, meals for them bi-weekly. We are still encouraging and registering residents for COVID vaccines and tests. And also our senior centers, which is managed by our partner providers, DFTR, are holding, still holding virtual activities and so forth for the seniors, being that, you know, we are not at the in-person level at this time. So they are still actively providing those services to our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all of the important outreach efforts that you and your team are doing. I'm particularly glad to hear about the COVID vaccines and testing is being with as well. It's so important right now.
I'm sorry, can you hear my dog?
Yes.
Sorry.
It's devastating our community. Thank you for that, Ms. Watkins. And next I wanted to—
You're very welcome.
To Ms. Jodie Collander from Deputy Mayor Vickie Breen's office to give us an update, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear and see you. Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I hope you're all doing well. I will keep my remarks short. As we just try to give as much time to the residents as possible. But I did want to provide a quick update to all of you about two items related to funding. As many of you have highlighted on this call, NYCHA, funding for NYCHA and its repairs and for capital improvements continue to be of paramount importance in turning around the organization and making sure that residents are living in habitable conditions. And as a party to the 2019 HUD agreement, the city plays a role in that. So as some of you know, but as a kind of broader update, on the as part of the January 2019 agreement, HUD agreement, HUD, NYCHA, the City of New York all signed on to broadly work together to remedy a lot of the physical deficiencies in NYCHA developments and to ensure that NYCHA complies with its obligations under the law. And so under the agreement, specifically as it relates to the City of New York, the city committed to providing $2.2 billion in capital dollars over the course of 10 years to support NYCHA in a lot of its compliance efforts under the agreement. So the city is also, I think in total, I would say that the city is responsible for committing about $2.8 billion under that agreement. So I'm happy to report that in February, the mayor's office, in working with NYCHA and OMB, reviewed and approved a method for actually funding several funding allocations that we believe will help NYCHA to do the following. For one, it targets all 5 pillars of the HUD agreement, including lead abatement. It allows for the dollars to flow toward remediation and health and safety hazards. It helps NYCHA to show proof of concept on large capital projects, proof that NYCHA needs to demonstrate it as it attempts to do broader kind of system-wide or multi-development capital projects in the future. And it also targets heating scope to address root causes that lead to unplanned outages and allows NYCHA to work toward compliance with Local Law 97. So that, which is Local Law 97 relates to carbon reductions and sustainability, which for residents that matters, and as it also relates to reduce utility costs and more efficient buildings. So as I mentioned, there's roughly $2.8 billion that the city is committing to spending over the course of 10 years. And the buckets are as follows. Lead abatement was a important focus for us and continues to be a continued focus for the mayor. So the money will go to fully abating all apartments with lead paint identified through NYCHA's XRF initiative. The second bucket is comprehensive lead and mold abatement at 2 developments. And as I mentioned earlier, NYCHA is trying to show proof of concept that they can actually do kind of full system development wide work, and so that would be a major capital project for those 2 developments. The third is heating scope changes at 4 developments. So for those 4 developments, they will see more efficient heating systems, and that it's done with existing city and state funding. Elevator, and sorry, I should clarify that is also tied to the $450 million that the state is putting in for boiler and elevator replacement work under the state GDA with DASNY. And so in that agreement, that heating scope, those heating scope changes that the city is dedicating funds to helps to make sure that those heating projects actually achieve a higher standard and essentially is a longer term fix. So it's an improved scope to what NYCHA had originally proposed to the state. The city is also going to cover some cost escalations connected to the elevator work under that state agreement at Abatement Development. So then that leaves another pillar, waste management. And so under this plan, the city is working with NYCHA and hopes to fund and fully revamp waste management across the portfolio, including waste yards and interior compactor renovations across the portfolio, so at all NYCHA development. So that is the update on the city capital action plan. I will also mention that early in March, as I mentioned earlier in the update, the state and NYCHA, in partnership with the monitor, they executed the state GDA agreement, which provides $50 million to help NYCHA in reimbursement dollars, so that NYCHA can actually put in place about 108 boilers at 25 developments, and to fix 148 elevator cars across 10 developments. So the anticipated impact is that, that are across the board, about 79,000 residents will benefit from that, the state funding with, the city's additional support for cost escalations and scope changes. Important to note on the state funding, NYCHA is already spending money on those projects, on those state funding projects. And those projects are in procurement. By the summer, those projects will be under construction. And we are looking forward to being able to deploy and work with our state and federal partners to make sure that NYCHA continues to get that we continue to advocate for additional funding dedicated to NYCHA to fund these repairs. Not in the future, but as soon as possible. So with that, if there are any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, and Asha, if I can just add, as Jodie indicated, for the 2.2 billion in city funds, under the HUD agreement, it's actually required that NYCHA, and they've been working on this, and we've been providing them with comments and suggestions, come up with a city-funded capital action plan, which not only has to be approved by the monitor, but also HUD and Southern. So the point is that all four of these, main bodies that have been working together under this monitorship will make sure that the funds are being effectively spent and that there's a concrete plan to carry that out effectively.
Thank you for adding that, Dan. Thank you so much, Jodie Collander, for that important update. It's good to hear about funding coming in. That's good news. Certainly is necessary. And also, I wanted to take this moment to thank and applaud you for your service on the CAC. We really appreciate you coming to all the meetings and the tremendous addition you've been to our group. I understand you may be rolling off to switch portfolios, and that someone new may be taking your place at our next meeting, but you certainly cannot be replaced. So thank you so much for your time, dedication, and service. We really appreciate you. And if you want to say any final words.
I learn and I listen, and I appreciate everyone's time and attention on these calls. The residents who highlight so many of the important issues that the city and NYCHA continue to face, and we do center you in these discussions, and will continue to. So thank you all for your continued dedication to your homes and your neighborhoods, and to advocating for change. So and I will say I'm not abandoning anybody. I will be on and listening and continuing to work from the mayor's office, focusing specifically on capital and the NYCHA's real estate portfolio. So but here and helping to implement changes and advocate for funding in the form of capital for NYCHA residents. Thank you.
I have a
So important.
question.
Thank you for your hard and great work. And
Asha?
go back to Eva Trimble with NYCHA
Oh,
to
I had a question for
to
Jodie.
the updates as well.
Hello?
I'm sorry, Asha, it sounded like someone was trying to ask a question. I don't want to step on their voice.
I
don't know
had
who
a
that was.
question for Jodie.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
I'm sorry, I had a question for Jodie.
Yes, please, Ms. Lozano.
I wanted, I'm so pleased to hear, that's very encouraging about capital funding. There's two developments, if possibly through your efforts, Asha, that she could get my contact information, because I want to know if these two specific developments are slotted for capital funding. They're in much grave need, and it's very, very important to me to make sure that I do whatever I can to advocate for those two developments. They're senior developments and they mean the world to me. So if there's some way that I could get assistance to finding out if those two developments would be started for capital funding.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lozano, for highlighting that. I'll make sure that offline I connect you all to the folks that can help get you some answers. Because as you said, a lot of these senior developments especially are in need of additional capital repairs. And we want to make sure that they're getting the attention that they need and deserve. Thank you for highlighting that. Eva, did you have another update?
Yes, thank you, Asha. I just wanted to mention that for the June 8th meeting, I've invited Steve Lovesey, the Executive Vice President for Capital Programs at NYCHA, to join the meeting with us and give a presentation about capital and answer questions about capital projects. I know that there's been a lot of questions about elected official funding for capital projects, and he can also respond to the scaffolding issues. So I'm working with him to prepare for the June 8th meeting to be able to talk about capital.
Excellent, thank you. We look forward to that. And we have a lot of questions for him. So I would actually ask the members if you could let me know if you have specific questions, topics, etc., so that we can get as much information out of our next CAC meeting on June 8th as possible, and tee up some of those issues. Related to that, let me give a couple of updates with regards to our upcoming schedule from the monitor team. As Eva Trimble just mentioned, our next CAC meeting is June 8th. That's a closed CAC member only meeting that we stream on live on YouTube. And we also record this meeting and keep it available on our NYCHAmonitor.com website. Also upcoming on May, well, I should mention the first next week, a week from today on April 20th, we're having a special NYCHA Monitor Town Hall where we're going to feature our pillar lead, Charles Fax, who's going to do a deep dive discussion on the action plans related to waste and pest. And then following that on May 11th, we'll have a Manhattan community meeting. Unfortunately, we're still doing these community meetings in the Zoom platform, so we won't be at a setting in Manhattan, but we will have the Manhattan residents will be our VIPs, so they will come to the front of the line for any questions or concerns, but certainly all boroughs are invited to attend and as time permits, ask questions and raise concerns. We will next have a similar meeting on July 13th featuring Queens, where our Queens residents will be our VIPs. So again, we have meetings coming up on April 20th, focusing on waste and pest issues. We have our May 11th Manhattan community meeting. Our next CAC is June 8th, and then July 13th, we will have our Queens meeting. So I just wanted to highlight those and take a moment to highlight our monitor contact information that was just on the screen as well. You can always contact us, even if it's not a meeting. We welcome hearing from all CAC members, as well as all residents and community members and other stakeholders who want to reach us. Please look for additional information on the NYCHAmonitor.com website. Please know that you could contact us at monitor@nychamonitor.com or reach us on our toll-free number 844-309-6080. And again, I highlighted some of our upcoming meetings. Thank you for putting that up. Next, I wanted to turn back to the discussion to see if we had additional updates, comments, concerns from Ms. Nancy Ortiz, who has also shifted her role. She's no longer our Manhattan representative, but in her new role as being part of NYCHA, she is in our advisory capacity. So Ms. Ortiz, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to welcome Mr. Manny Martinez. I'm sure you're going to do an amazing job for Queens. I'm sad to see my Staten Island cohort leave, but I'm glad she's staying as a CAC member as well. And we're still working on the recertification. We rolled out a new deck and it's currently being tested. And so far we haven't gotten as many complaints as we got before. There's a little few nicks and knacks here and there and glitches, but they're immediately fixed. And hopefully this will be the complete rollout of the recertification. I have to thank Eva and her team for diligently and relentlessly working on this, because it really was a problem. And they dove in and found a way to fix it, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure all the residents are going to appreciate it as well. And that was always my pet peeve, and it will continue to be my pet peeve. And again, I thank everyone, Asha, the monitor, and the entire team. You guys have been amazing, and you've put a lot of effort into the forefront of the issues of the New York City Housing Authority, and I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Nancy, for your continued leadership and advocacy on these important issues, and thank you for helping to move the ball forward, particularly on this recertification issue that touches literally every resident's life, and hopefully the process will be improved going forward. We're looking forward to seeing that roll out. And I wanted to make sure that we also had some time for Mr. Robert Hall. I know that there's a lot of issues on his chest, some concerns he wanted to raise. And I know one of the issues you want to touch on has to do with the trust plan, which is outside of the monitor's purview. And we've had a lot of meetings talking about the distinction with the work that we're doing, the monitors team and other things that are outside of our area. But I wanted to give you the floor to talk about the issues that are on your heart and mind right now.
Okay, thank you, Asha. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Nancy Ortiz. I want to congratulate Manny Martinez. I think you'll do a great job carrying the intellectual need and points of interest across to the powers that be. All right. Tamika took my thunder when she talked about those brackets, because I had a conversation with my superintendent and he's paying for those brackets. So you're absolutely right. I also want to extend a sincere thanks to Eva Tremble for helping me with intervention of this customer service issue as it lends itself to housing assistance and the fiduciary responsibility for being passionate, especially during this pandemic. So thank you. All right. One of the major issues, and I'm getting this across the board within the confines of NYCHA, is the residents are quite concerned with this preservation trust. They don't believe in it. They don't like it. They would like to, they call it de facto privatization. And that's what it is. What's scary about this, if for some reason this is unsuccessful, all right, what may happen is you may increase homelessness across the city of New York. And there is no plan B. So that being said, we have to be very careful as it lends itself to this, what you call trust, gathering this trust money, all right? A lot of folks are scared of that. They would like to keep public housing public. And this is very, very important. This is an election year, and people are trying to see to it that the best interests of NYCHA comes across from all facets. Last but not least, Alika Samuel mentioned about senior developments. I'm sorry I missed that, but I just want you to know that there are a lot of developments that are not senior developments that really are senior developments statistically. And please be passionate of that situation. I happen to live in one, okay? We're not a senior development, however, we have quite a bit of seniors. That is our portfolio. So you need to be conscientious of that. But above all, okay, it is very important that this trust not go forward because it's not in the best interest of the progression of and the mindset of New York City as it lends itself to housing being public. You cannot do away with public housing. You must leave it public. All right, there's nowhere for folks to turn. And I'm not talking about now, I'm really talking about 7 or 8 years from now. All right, when the rules change, Nike still owns the land and that's fine. But you know what? The needs that exist, everything goes up, especially in New York City. And if whatever non-for-profit organization, how are they going to get their funding? No one has that answer. And we don't need to cross that bridge. You need to find this out the hard way. So I really, really caution that particular direction. And once again, as I move on to this advisory capacity, I want to thank you, Asha, for all you've done, all the work you've put in to make this monitor segment successful. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for your comments. I know that there are a lot of strong feelings on all sides of this issue. This isn't the forum to address them, but I encourage you to continue to make your voice heard in all places that you can. And I encourage residents to make their voices heard. Jodie?
I just wanted to respond very quickly to it. I want to acknowledge and that there are resident concerns around the what is called privatization or the claims about privatization. But I just want to reiterate on this call that the City of New York, the Mayor's Office, NYCHA, the state, HUD, and SDNY have no interest in advancing a plan that would displace 2/3 of NYCHA residents and put them out on the street. And I would say that over the past couple of years or the past couple of months, NYCHA has been working with the city, with the law department, with the state to advance a plan that that speaks to and make sure that residents above all are protected and that their homes are protected in this plan. I believe that NYCHA has tried to communicate that and work that through with CCOP and other resident leaders and communicate that. But if that is not getting across and if that message is not heard and if residents continue to be concerned please don't hesitate to reach out to the mayor's office, to NYCHA, to highlight the ways in which you think the legislation and the language, particularly around resident protections and rights, especially around residents' rights to remain in place through the legislation, are not being addressed. We're happy to hear them and to incorporate that feedback into the bill.
That's important clarification. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then Mr. Gross, did you still have a question? Mr. Gross, you're on mute.
It's NYCHA, the largest city agency, and they have a great customer service number, the CCC number. I would recommend in the center, they should have a couple people speaking different languages like Spanish, Polish, Chinese. If a resident call with a different language, not English, they're able to assist the residents.
That already happens. Perhaps someone from NYCHA can speak to that. But one of the first things that I did as a member of the monitor team was to go and tour the CCC, and I witnessed a call come in a language, and they were able to get a translator on the line immediately to conduct the call in the person's language. And I know that there's multiple languages. Although while you were talking, it actually gave me an idea. This is just me talking, so I don't know if it's a good idea or not. So don't take it as a formal monitor recommendation, but to the extent that that people might have questions and speak multiple different languages about some of the trust issues or transformation plan, maybe there should be a number that they can call and get language translation services to help explain it as well. I don't know if that's something that the CCC could do, or if there's any thoughts around that. But to your point earlier, Mr. Gross, about making sure that understanding what's going on is accessible to everyone in all the many languages that are pervasive within the NYCHA population. I know that there's lots of translations, but I don't know if there's translated into every language, but I did get the impression that the CCC has a really broad capability to translate. Dan, did you want to say something?
Thank you. I think when you call, you have to request for a translator. It takes time. They don't have it like on hand. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe yes.
Yeah.
Try.
They just call a number and can get someone on, but it might take a few minutes to get that proper link.
Asha, I'm gonna address it to my colleague.
Having a little trouble hearing. If you could be a little.
Sorry, I said that I will address when I'm in these meetings. I just want everyone to be mindful that I do take notes, and I do go back to CCAP and the other entities on a weekly basis, because we are on Zoom Tuesdays and Thursdays all day long, from the morning all the way until this time. So I'm taking notice of that, and I want everybody to know that I do usually speak to you, Asha or Floretta, on what I'm hearing in these meetings, to report it back to you, so then they know that their questions are not, are going to be addressed thoroughly.
Great, thank you. We appreciate you, Ms. Lozano, being a liaison for us with CCOP and the important leadership that the whole body does. So with that, we are going to close our meeting. I will hand it to the Deputy Monitor, Dan Brownell, to close us out.
Thanks, Asha. So there's just two quick things I want to say. With regard to the safety and security issues, I remember, I think the first CAC was in May of 2019, and I believe it was Nancy and Tamika that raised the issue of definitely cameras, and probably cameras and lighting at their respective developments, and the frustration of not being able to get first of all, get the equipment they need, cameras and lighting, so that they felt secure in their developments, but we've, as I think it was Mr. Gross said tonight, and others, and I know our field examiners just participated in a meeting a couple of weeks ago at Woodson Houses with resident leaders there and some elected officials about the same concerns. If ever there was a group of people that is the right group of people to really get more traction on this issue, it's this CAC between NYCHA and the monitor and elected officials and law enforcement and the resident community and others. So, I really think we should, up the game here. I realize the scaffolding issue is much more complicated, but certainly with lighting and cameras and all of the funds that elected officials provide to NYCHA and other sources of funding to get this done, I think we just gotta, as I said, start making some traction here. And then the second thing I want to say, which is really, what Councilmember Apre Samuel said near the end of the hearing last week is, NYCHA's done a great job in the last, particularly the last month or so in terms of making vaccines more available. Let's do everything we can to get the word out so that we get as many seniors particularly, but NYCHA residents vaccinated as quickly as possible. And then the last two things, since our next CAC is on June 8th, it would be great if the MOU between DFTA and NYCHA, and I know there's MOUs also between NYCHA and other, city agencies that use the community centers, that be close to conclusion, at least drafted, so we know what it's going to be. We've heard that DFTA now has more funding so that they actually can, participate in doing these repairs and maintenance. So let's get that done. And then also let's get the senior centers open as quickly as possible, get safety plans together. And hopefully by June, which is close to the beginning of the summer, that those centers, if not open then, have very clear schedules on when they will soon be open so that can happen. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And I did want to make one final announcement. As you have heard, some members are rolling off. We're seeking new volunteers. So I've made this announcement at several of the last few meetings, but we are still soliciting people who are interested, and there's no secret sauce. And it's actually no special prize, but who are willing to roll up your sleeves, work on important issues, and stay committed to helping us advance advocacy for residents on numerous different areas that affect their lives in NYCHA properties. So if anyone wants to reach out to the monitors team, express your interest, let us know, and we will figure out how we could put you to work on this or some other way. We're really look forward to having increased involvement with all of you and all of you who have joined us on YouTube, because that means you're interested in these important issues and we want to work with you. So with that, we will close out for the evening. Thank you all of our members for your continued hard work and advocacy on these issues. Thank you to all of our agency representatives for the work that you all do. Good night. Stay safe.